So we're on day one of our posture awareness day, and today we're talking about shoulders and pecs. And most of us, if you're doing our posture challenge, will find that you're sat a lot of the day in a curved position. So we tend to be very curved through the chest, we tend to have tightness through here, and what basically happens if you look at me here is that if I'm nice and open through my shoulder, my chest stays nice and open. If I'm sat all day and I'm tending to curl over, that muscle there, so the pec minor, pulls me forward. And then basically with that muscle being pulled forward, it can leave me open to problems with my shoulder later on. So if I then try and move it, because I'm tight through here, I'm going to get tightness through here, and I'm going to get tight through here. And then we end up with neck pain, we end up with upper back pain, because obviously we have to use this. So if my shoulder is tight in that position there, when I then try and move my arm to lift it up, it just gets caught. So we need to address this, but also we need to address how the shoulder sits as well, because if that muscle's pulling it forward, then the muscles at the back have to work harder just to keep them still. So it's a bit of a multi-prong. You can't just say, look, I'm going to fix my shoulder and get my shoulders back, because if your pecs are tight and here and you pull your shoulder back, you end up poking your chin forward, which makes the problem even worse. And then you can see that I'm using my shoulders a bit more here. So we're going to start with what to do about this tight pec. So you've got two choices. You either stretch it or you do some releases, and ideally we're going to do both. So what I'm going to go through is some pec stretches. So if you've got a doorway, you're just going to keep the arm low, and we're just stretching through that pec here. So my pec's tight in that position here, and it's pulling my shoulder forwards, so I want to do anything that's going to lengthen that pec out. Okay, so if I hold my hand against the door post, I'm gently stretching out the pec that way. Most of us are familiar with that sort of position. Another one is if we have the elbow through a door post and we're reaching that way, and again we're turning out. So what happens is that I come up to the door, I walk through, and I gently stretch, or I have it in a bent elbow position and I gently stretch, and we should feel the stretch along that front bit of the shoulder. We're not talking about the big pec muscle, so the defined pec muscle that we all see. We're talking about that short little pec minor, which pulls that shoulder blade forward. Okay, so they're your stretches that you can do. The second one that we're going to look at doing, if I just have a wander to a wall, is some pec releases. Okay, so with that sort of short pec muscle, so it goes from the point of the shoulder down towards here, and if you have your hand in a cup, as if you're sort of cupping your armpit, the ball is going to go where that hand would cup under your armpit. So you're going to place it here. I'm just going to swap hands over, and you're going to lean against a wall. Okay, and that is how you release your pec. Obviously from a girl point of view, you want to make sure that you're over the edge of a wall so that you can get your boobs out of the way. From a boy point of view, you can probably just lean against the wall, but it's easier to teach you it just slightly outside the wall. So again, you're just trying to find that bit of the pec that feels a bit tight, and you just hold in that position. Okay, your hand is going to be down by your side, so my hand is down by my side as I'm doing it. As I stretch, I might want to bring my arm up into that position so it's a little bit wider, but you can see if I'm tight, my whole arm is going to come up. If I've got a straight pec or a good pec, my arm is going to move in that good position. So posture day number one is all about the pecs. What I want you to focus on is that as you move and as you do stuff, that what you're aware of is how curled forward that pec is. Another one is maybe just your own pec releases. So what you do is you take your opposite hand and you just release into where that pec is, and it can be quite uncomfortable and it can be quite tight. So from a girl point of view, you're staying away from the boob area, you're just coming up above that. From a boy point of view, it's not that pec, big pec muscle we're after, it's that small little bit of your pec through there. Okay, if you're doing your stretches, obviously to get that pec major, or pec minor rather, up, you want to make sure the shoulder's down, so you don't want the arm right the way up here. You want to start with it a little bit lower and then work into it, and obviously the same with the bent arm version. For this bit here, you just stay in that top area and get some work through there. I would probably go with your stretches, maybe just 3 sets or 3 repeats, and you're doing them maybe for 10, 20 second holds, 25 second holds ideally. And then with your releases, if you've never done any releases before, just be aware that they can be a little bit uncomfortable. So you might find that it's a little bit tender, and I would maybe do 2 minutes, 3 minutes, build up to 5 if you're happy. But just be aware, if you normally have a massage and you'll find that you feel a bit or a bit sort of nauseous after a massage, you can get that release of toxins. And again, it's one of those muscles that's a little bit tender, so some people feel quite uncomfortable after having done it. So go gentle on yourself to start with, but day 1 is about the pecs, okay? You can't get better posture, and you will never get better posture if your pecs are tight, because you're fighting against movement that just isn't there. So it doesn't matter how much you stand up straight, it doesn't matter how much you try and work the muscles to get them stronger, or how much you brace your shoulder blades back, that muscle is going to stop you from doing it. So you need to be succinct and have purpose to what you're trying to do. The purpose would be release this muscle and get it stretched first so that it can sit and allow the shoulder blade to sit where you want it. So hope you enjoyed day 1. Get cracking on day 1, and we'll see you tomorrow for day 2. Thanks for joining.